So today we're diving into this incredible, ancient detective story, straight out of Babylon. It comes from a text known as Daniel chapter 14. At the center of it all is a man named Daniel, who happens to be the top advisor to King Cyrus the Persian. But here's the thing, he refuses to bow down to the local gods, and that is about to throw him into a wild series of challenges where he'll have to solve a mystery, face down a monster, and survive an impossible test, all with his life hanging by a thread.
And this is the very first puzzle Daniel has to solve. And believe me, the stakes are sky high. We're in an empire where pretty much everyone, including the king himself, worships this powerful idol. So Daniel's refusal to play along, that's basically treason. He isn't just questioning a belief, he's challenging the very foundation of the state, and it's setting up a life or death test of his wits and his faith.
So this is Bel, and for the Babylonians, he's not just a statue. He's a living, breathing, and very hungry god. The king worships him every single day, completely convinced of his power. But Daniel just sees a hollow shell of clay and bronze. But what's really wild is just how much stuff they're dedicating to this belief, every single day.
First up, every day, the priests haul in 6 bushels of fine flour. That's a massive amount. We're talking enough to bake hundreds of loaves of bread.
And it doesn't stop there. They also offer up 40 sheep, a whole flock, every single day, just to feed this idol.
And to wash it all down, 6 measures of wine. So for the king, this is like undeniable proof, right? He sees all this food laid out, and poof, the next morning, it's gone. Obviously, Bel's a living god with a serious appetite. And this is really where things come to a head. The king literally asked Daniel, hey, why don't you worship Bel? Can't you see he's real? Look how much he eats and drinks every day. But Daniel, he just laughs. He tells the king he only worships the one living God who actually created everything, not some statue made by people. Well, this makes the king furious. I mean, he feels like his God and his own judgment have just been totally insulted.
So the king calls in his 70 priests, and he lays down an ultimatum. He tells them, look, you prove that Bel is the one eating all this food, and Daniel dies for insulting him. But if you can't, well, then you die. The priests are super confident, they totally agree. The stage is set. So, how in the world is Daniel going to prove what's really happening behind those sealed doors?
You know what? He doesn't call down some big miracle. Nope. He sets this brilliant but super simple trap. Okay, so first, the king gets the big meal all set up in front of the idol. Then, Daniel has his servants sneak in and secretly scatter this fine ash all over the temple floor. You see where this is going? Finally, they all leave and the king himself seals the temple door with his own royal ring. Nobody gets in or out without breaking that seal. Period. So the next morning, they come back, and the king, he is feeling good. He's like, see, Daniel, the seals are perfect. He throws open the doors, and yep, the table's empty. The food, the wine, the sheep, all gone. He's shouting, you are great, O Bel. There is no trickery in you. He is totally ready to have Daniel executed right there on the spot.
But Daniel, cool as ever, just stops him. He actually laughs, holds the king back from going inside, and just points to the floor. The trap has been sprung. That perfectly smooth layer of ash from the night before? Yeah, it's not so smooth anymore. It's holding a secret.
The king looks down, and the whole scam just falls apart right in front of his eyes. The ash is just covered in footprints, and they're not from a god, they're from men, women, and even little kids. Turns out the priests had a secret entrance under the table. Every night, they'd sneak in with their whole families and just have a massive feast. The king is absolutely livid. He has them all arrested, they spill the beans on everything, and Bel, the great fake, is handed over to Daniel to be destroyed. You'd think that'd be the end of it, right? I mean, he just exposed a massive national fraud. But no, the king isn't done. He's like, okay, fine, Bel was a fake, but we also have this great dragon that we worship. You can't tell me this thing isn't a living god, so worship it. The challenge just went from uncovering a deception to dealing with a living, breathing creature. And once again, Daniel's like, nope. He tells the king, just give me permission and I'll kill this thing without even using a sword or a club. The king's intrigued, so he agrees. So Daniel cooks up this really weird recipe. He boils pitch, fat, and hair together into these little cakes. It's not a weapon, it's more like a really, really deadly snack.
So what does he do? He just feeds these cakes to the dragon. And the result is, well, it's sudden and it's messy. The dragon eats them, and it literally bursts open. With one clever move, Daniel proves that, hey, just because something's alive, that doesn't make it a god. But this win? Oh, it's gonna cost him. Big time.
The people of Babylon, they are furious. I mean, their gods have been smashed, their priests are dead. They see this as a total attack on their whole way of life. And who do they blame? The king, for letting this foreign advisor run wild. So they form this huge, angry mob. They go to the king and they say, "Hand over Daniel, or we are going to kill you and your entire family." The king's trapped. He's got no choice. He has to give in. The crowd grabs Daniel and they throw him into a den. But this isn't just some pit. Inside, there are 7 lions. And they've been deliberately starved to make sure they're extra ferocious.
And he's not just there for an hour. They leave him there for 6 whole days. Think about that. Nearly a week, sealed in a dark pit with 7 ravenous predators. This isn't a battle of wits anymore. This looks like a straight-up gruesome death sentence. But then, something really, really weird happens. Just when it seems like it's all over, the story takes this sharp, surreal turn. We're suddenly hundreds of miles away in Judea. There's this prophet, Habakkuk, and he's just, making some lunch for some workers. All of a sudden, an angel shows up with this bizarre order. Take that food you're making to Daniel in the lion's den in Babylon. And Habakkuk is, understandably confused. He's like, I don't even know where Babylon is.
Right, but the angel doesn't have time for a geography lesson. In what has to be the strangest method of travel in any ancient text, the angel just grabs Habakkuk by the hair and bam, with the speed of the wind, flies him all the way to Babylon and plops him down right on top of the den. Habakkuk calls down to Daniel and gives him the food. And after days of having to rely on his own smarts, Daniel gets a full-on miracle. It's not just that he survived. It's a sign, a meal delivered to the dark, a sign that even in the deepest, most hopeless pit, he has not been forgotten.
So, on the 7th day, the king goes to the den. He's expecting to mourn his friend. But when he peers inside, there's Daniel, just sitting there, totally fine, completely unharmed. The king is just blown away. He finally gets it, and he cries out, completely convinced that Daniel's God is the one true God.
And the story ends with this really swift, brutal flip. The king has Daniel pulled out of the den, and then he throws the guys who accused Daniel in instead. And the text is graphic here. It says they were devoured in a second before they even hit the ground. And that's the final grisly proof. Those lions were definitely hungry. Daniel's survival was nothing short of a miracle.
And so this crazy ancient story, part detective novel, part monster movie, part miracle, it leaves us with a really big, really modern question. Daniel literally faced death 3 separate times because he wouldn't back down from what he believed. And it kind of forces us to ask ourselves, what ideas, what truths are so important to us that we'd risk everything for them? The story isn't just an adventure, it's a challenge that still rings true today. When, if ever, is a belief worth dying for?